The ferry station loomed, a skeletal giant against the churning fog. Emily shivered, pulling her coat tighter. "You sure about this, Rye?" Ryan, his face grim in the fading light, nodded. "He's here. The ferryman." The air hung heavy, thick with the smell of brine and decay. The only sound, the mournful cry of gulls. They stepped inside. Dust-covered benches, shattered glass, silence. "This place," Emily whispered, her voice catching. "It feels wrong." Ryan ran a hand through his hair. "Your dad came here, years ago, before—" He trailed off. Emily knew what he meant, before her father vanished, swallowed by the same fog that now pressed against the windows. A floorboard creaked above them. Emily spun around, heart pounding. "Did you hear that?" Ryan shook his head. "Just the wind, Em." But his voice lacked conviction. They found a door hidden behind peeling paint, almost as if it was trying to keep its secrets buried. It creaked open, revealing a cramped, dusty room filled with old furniture and memories long forgotten. A single window cast a pale eye on the floor, its light struggling to penetrate the gloom. Photographs lay scattered on a table, covered in dust. Emily picked one up, her fingers trembling slightly. Her father, young and smiling, stood on the deck of a ferry, a moment frozen in time. The same ferry they had seen, now rotting at the pier, a ghost of its former self. Beside the photos, a pile of newspaper clippings lay in disarray, each one telling a piece of the story. Headlines screamed of disappearances, unexplained accidents, and the legend of the ferryman, a tale that had haunted the town for generations. A low cough echoed from the doorway. Emily whirled around, her heart pounding in her chest. The sound was unexpected, sending a shiver down her spine. A figure stood silhouetted against the light, an imposing presence that seemed to absorb the very essence of the room. The air grew thick with tension. Tall, gaunt, his face hidden by a wide-brimmed hat. "Who's there?" Ryan's voice was tight, barely masking his fear. The figure stepped forward, each movement deliberate and slow. He wore a long, dark coat, his hands concealed in its depths. "You seek passage?" His voice was a dry rasp, like dead leaves skittering across pavement. Emily met his gaze, her eyes narrowing. "Yes," she replied, her voice steady despite the fear gnawing at her insides. "We're looking for the ferryman." The man's eyes glinted with a strange light, as if he knew more than he let on. "The ferryman," he repeated, almost mockingly. "Many seek him, but few find him." His words hung in the air, heavy with implication. The figure chuckled, a chilling, mirthless sound that echoed through the hallway. "You've found him," he said, his voice dripping with a sinister promise. Emily and Ryan exchanged a glance, knowing their journey had only just begun. Fear coiled in Emily's stomach, a tight knot that seemed to grow with each passing second. She clutched her abdomen, trying to steady her breath, but the anxiety was overwhelming. The ferryman. He was real. The stories she had heard as a child, the whispers in the dark, they were all true. He stood there, an ominous presence by the river, shrouded in mist. But what did he want? Emily's mind raced with questions. Why had he come now? What was his purpose? She felt a chill run down her spine as she tried to piece it all together. "Your father," the ferryman said, his voice a low murmur that seemed to echo in the stillness of the night. "He made a choice, chose passage." His words were heavy with meaning, each one sinking into Emily's heart. He reached into his coat and withdrew a leather-bound ledger, its cover worn and weathered by time. The sight of it sent a shiver through Emily. He opened it, his finger tracing a line of faded ink, the names barely legible. Each name told a story, each line a testament to choices made and debts owed. "And now," the ferryman said, his gaze fixed on Emily, "the debt falls to you." The ledger lay open, its pages revealing the weight of her inheritance. Emily saw her father's name, scrawled in hurried script, a stark reminder of the choices he had made. Her heart pounded in her chest, and beneath it, her own. The inheritance. It was more than just a name. It was a legacy, a burden she had never asked for but could not escape. A legacy of fear and a one-way ticket across the misty abyss. The river called to her, its waters dark and foreboding, promising a journey she was destined to take.